The night was quiet, the kind of quiet that made you wonder if the whole world had fallen asleep at once. Stars shimmered like tiny lanterns scattered across the sky, and the moon hung low, glowing like a silver coin. In a little town tucked between rolling hills, children were being tucked into bed, their eyes drooping and yawns escaping their lips. But for those who listened very carefully, with ears sharper than most, a faint sound could be heard: chug, chug, chug. Oliver was one of those children who listened. He lay in bed with his blanket pulled up to his chin, staring at the ceiling. Sleep never came easily to him. His head was always full of questions. Why did stars twinkle? Why did shadows move? And why, he wondered tonight, could he hear the sound of a train when no train tracks ran through their town? The sound grew louder. He slipped out of bed, tiptoed to the window, and pressed his nose against the glass. That's when he saw it. A train, glowing faintly gold, puffing out clouds of glittering smoke, rolled quietly down the empty street as if it were gliding on invisible tracks. Its windows shimmered like pools of light, and the front bore a nameplate that sparkled: "The Bedtime Train to Nowhere." Oliver's heart beat faster. The train slowed, stopping right in front of his house. A door slid open with a hiss, and a soft voice called, "All aboard!" He didn't think. He just grabbed his slippers and ran outside. The night air was cool and smelled faintly of lavender. At the train's door stood a tall conductor dressed in a blue coat sprinkled with starlight, his hat tipped neatly on his head. "You're just in time," the conductor said with a smile that reached his eyes. "Every child who needs a journey finds their way here." Oliver stepped inside, and his mouth fell open. The train's interior was nothing like he imagined. Instead of seats, there were cozy little beds with patchwork quilts. Warm golden lamps hung from the ceiling, and the air smelled of cocoa and fresh cookies. Other children were already there, tucked in or sitting up excitedly, their faces glowing with wonder. The train gave a soft whistle, and with a lurch, it began to move. Oliver pressed his face against the window. The streets disappeared, replaced by starry skies. The train wasn't traveling on the ground, it soared through the night, weaving between constellations and drifting past the moon. "Where are we going?" Oliver asked the boy in the bed next to him. The boy grinned. "Nowhere." "That's what they say, but it's the best kind of nowhere you'll ever see." The conductor moved gracefully through the train, handing out cups of warm milk that never spilled, no matter how the train swayed. "Close your eyes if you're sleepy," he told the children. "But if you stay awake, you'll see things most grown-ups have forgotten." Oliver chose to stay awake. His curiosity was too strong. The train glided into a forest where trees shimmered silver, their leaves whispering lullabies. Fireflies danced in swirls, lighting up the path like lanterns. The children leaned out the windows, giggling as glowing butterflies landed on their hands. Then, with another whistle, the train soared higher, through drifting clouds shaped like castles and dragons. A cloud dragon even winked at Oliver before fading into mist. At one stop, the train slowed before a lake as smooth as glass. The conductor announced, "The Dream Lake." The children gasped as they saw their dreams shimmering across the water. Some showed adventures with pirates, some with superheroes, others with gentle animals and magical lands. Oliver saw his own reflection turn into a dream of him flying with wings made of stars. He reached out, and though the image rippled away, the warmth of it stayed in his chest. As the train continued, Oliver noticed how the other children, one by one, began to drift to sleep in their cozy beds. Their dreams seemed to float out of their heads like tiny bubbles, glowing softly before slipping out the window into the night. The train seemed to carry those dreams gently, as if delivering them to the skies. Still, Oliver stayed awake, eager to see everything. He sat with the conductor for a while. "Why is it called the train to nowhere?" he asked. The conductor smiled, his eyes twinkling like the stars outside. "Because nowhere isn't a place. It's a feeling. It's the space between being awake and asleep, where magic is strongest. That's where we go. And every night, before dawn, we bring the children back safe and dreaming." Oliver thought about that. It made sense in a way he couldn't quite explain. The train slowed once more, this time at a field filled with glowing dandelions. The children who were still awake were given a single puffball. "Make a wish," the conductor said gently. Oliver closed his eyes and wished not for toys or sweets or even wings, but simply to remember this place forever. He blew softly, and the seeds floated up like stars, vanishing into the night. The train whistled again. The journey was ending. Oliver felt his eyelids grow heavy at last. The train rocked him gently, the stars outside blurring into streaks of light. He curled up under his quilt, clutching the warmth of his wish. The last thing he heard was the conductor's voice, soft and kind. "Dream well, traveler. You'll be home before the first bird sings." When Oliver opened his eyes, morning sunlight streamed into his room. He sat up in bed, blinking. Had it all been a dream? His slippers were neatly by his bed, and for a moment he thought nothing had changed. But when he looked at his windowsill, he froze. There, resting gently as if it had floated down from the stars, was a single glowing dandelion seed. It shimmered faintly, as though it carried the light of the dream lake inside it. Oliver smiled, his heart filling with warmth. He knew then that the bedtime train to nowhere was real. Maybe no one else would believe him, but he didn't mind. He would remember forever. And every night after, when the world grew quiet and the stars shone above, he listened carefully, waiting for the faint sound of chug, chug, chug. Because somewhere out there, the bedtime train was riding again, carrying children through dreams, past stars and silver forests, to that special nowhere where magic lived. And when it came for him once more, Oliver would be ready, slippers by his bed, heart open wide, waiting for the adventure that began just before dawn.